part of this Mindmerge. I feel a little bit like a Star Trek fan here. But seriously, I really enjoyed hearing about the different projects and the commonalities we share in our research, and it's not very often we all do like this. So thank you to Island Health and TBN and UVic for bringing us together today. So I'm going to be talking with you about our eHOME iCARE project, and I just want to provide a brief overview of the content I'll be going over today. So our research team, we've got a quite diverse research team. We bring considerable passion, diverse experiences, and first-hand knowledge of caregiving. 2 of us have had children with developmental and other disabilities. 2 have been involved in care with parents who have dementia, and several others have cared for family members with cognitive disability. So we represent a range of disciplines, which is so important, I think, for these complex care kinds of issues that we're addressing. We've got a number of different partners also. Island Health has been involved. We've been working in home and community care, the Office of the Senior Advocates, which represents the voice of seniors and also is very interested in RIDE analytics, and the University of Victoria Can Assist, and some other technology companies that I'll talk a little bit more about, but just briefly wanted to put those up here. The eHOME iCARE team, our vision is basically to develop a suite of technologies that go beyond monitoring and alerting caregivers. We want to also be able to predict when significant changes are likely to occur, allowing for earlier assessment, and we also want to prevent and intervene to reduce adverse events. And so we're very much interested in integrating technologies, smart and intelligent technologies that don't work in silos, in a way where we can look at trajectories that are happening over time. And it seems like the time is right now with the advances in technology to begin to think about integrating rather than these silos. As someone who's worked in nursing and in home care, it's been distressing to me to see different companies marketing medication dispensers, and they're completely separate from the activity monitors, and everybody is working kind of separately. So we're beginning to look at how we can integrate that, and then ultimately, once we have the proof of concept and can link different assessments to changes in clinical status, then we can see how this would be integrated into an electronic health record in the longer term. But that's kind of way down the pipeline. At this point, we need to just begin to see what we can integrate and how we can get a clearer picture of what's happening in the home. Because when you've got things like a medication dispenser working separately from activities, you don't really quite know. You're getting pieces of information rather than a more holistic sense of what's going on with that client. Okay, so you all know the demographics and why they're important, but just to reiterate, age 75 and older is one of the most rapidly growing age groups in terms of home care in particular. Here on the island, we've got over 800,000 older adults, and we've got 75,000 who are age 75 and older, and we've got almost 50,000 who are age 85 and older. The older age groups are the most rapidly growing age groups, and over the next by 2030, the numbers of those older adults will double in Canada, and on the island we're seeing 3% growth every year. Now, home care in particular is experiencing increasing pressures, and that's in part because we're discharging faster, and in residential care, we're running out of beds. And so we're trying to keep patients and clients in their home. There's a whole philosophy around home is best, and that's certainly true. That's where people want to be, and we should be able to provide care to home care, in home care. But there is this whole issue of limited resources even in home care. Not a lot of money gets allocated towards that. And so we need to look at how we can provide home care in a way where we can maximize our capacity. Okay, a little bit about home and community care clients. Over 6,000 older adults on Island Health receive home care, and among those, about 42% need assistance with ADLs. What's particularly striking here, I think, is that we have a lot of clients who have dementia. About 40% have Alzheimer's or dementia, and about half of those, 22%, have moderate cognitive impairment. That's a mini mental of about 15. And about 15% of clients have dementia and live alone. So you can see the challenges there of providing support to them. Half of all home care clients live alone. They're typically older, of course. And about 1 in 5 have signs of depression also. Those who have caregivers, even though caregivers may not be living with the client, 40% of them experience considerable stress, some depression. Among home care clients also, the risk of adverse events as measured by the MAPLE tool, those who measure high or very high is 56%. So this is a group, a population that's at considerable risk. And among those living at home also, 18% of those have behaviors such as wandering, which also increase their risk. So this wandering behavior in particular is something that we're interested in looking at and how we can monitor and then predict and then also intervene. It's not enough just to monitor and know what's going on. You need to be able to do something when someone starts wandering. Okay. There's 8.1 million Canadians and 28% of them are caregivers of chronically ill, disabled, or aging family members. How many of you out there have been caregivers? Yeah, pretty typical. And it looks like 50% in this group, which may represent perhaps a certain age group. But caregivers in general, even those who aren't necessarily living with a care client, have higher levels of stress and poorer health. Home care clients are typically have multiple complex chronic care conditions, and there's a significant financial impact on family caregivers also to provide for equipment that's needed, supplies, things of that sort. And family caregivers often are also working, and they end up cutting back on hours, having to take sick days to provide the care that their typically parents or other family members need. Meanwhile, the trend in demographics means that family caregiver support ratio is going down. People are living more at a distance, families are getting smaller, so in future years, family caregivers won't be as available. So this is why we're particularly interested in technologies and the ways in which they can help us bridge the gap and increase our capacity to provide home care. Right now, about 80% of Canadians receive help or care at home. And of these, according to a recent Stats Canada report, about 461,000 Canadians need help or care that they didn't receive. And 331,000 didn't receive all the help that they needed. It's only partially met. So we have significant needs in home care that need to be addressed. And our team really believes that technology can help fill a bit of this care gap if it's caregiver friendly, if it's affordable, if it's accessible, and if it's effective in addressing the needs that are most important. Okay, so what are these technologies? I'm just going to bring up this whole model here because I don't like these animations. In our model for technology and integrating it into home care, we believe in the importance of taking both periodic and continuous types of assessments. So it's not enough. In terms of continuous assessments, you can monitor mobility and behaviors. You can look at different wearables. In terms of periodic assessments, we believe you can do things like using pads to take psychometrics, look at cognitive status, monitor ADLs, and look at mobility and health. Our goal is to take both periodic and continuous kinds of measures to gather them at a distance in a kind of non-intrusive, ubiquitous way. They go up to a cloud, and then we have predictive analytics that help us understand what it is that's going on in the home. And it would integrate both informal caregiving with kind of automated, ultimately, some robots in the home, which are coming out just now, and also with the healthcare system. So to kind of bring this all together in a more intelligent kind of integrated system. So current projects. Right now we have a project that's funded by Island Health called Technology Supports for Community Dwelling Older Adults with Dementia and Family Caregivers. And what we're doing here is we're looking at some of the benefits, some of the attitudes, knowledge, and perceptions of both family caregivers and the clinicians who provide home care, and how they feel about technology. I was fortunate, I just want to acknowledge Elena Payne, Elena, raise your hand. She's one of our research assistants, and she was funded by TBN this summer as a highly qualified professional, and she helped us to do this survey this summer, looking at attitudes of clinicians towards use of technology in home care. So we surveyed, using an online survey, about 47 clinicians, and some of the findings were that they identified some of the most useful technologies, and they believed, they basically identified personal response, technologies that provide reminders, motion sensors, and GPS as their priorities and the things that they find useful. In terms of the benefits of use, it was really insightful, I think, to know that clinicians did view technologies as very useful. They felt that they helped contribute to earlier hospital discharge. They believed that they helped older adults to live longer at home. But there were a lot of barriers to integrating technology into home care. Some of those barriers were the need for cost subsidies. Some people can't afford technologies and they can be expensive, and right now we don't have any policy mechanisms to decide how to cover that. There's some initial projects that are underway. And also a big issue is whether or not someone has family nearby to respond if there are alerts that go out. In particular, you know, we have a lot of retirees who move to Victoria, and so their families may not be nearby. And so who is ultimately responsible for responding when you get an alert that someone's wandering, or that there's been, say you have a trajectory, you can tell that they're increasingly having some signs and symptoms that require more assessment or someone to check in on them. Who's responsible for that? At this point, we don't really have those policies in place. Our next step, we're getting ready right now to conduct some interviews with family caregivers and and the home care clients, and to gather some qualitative information on perceptions. But overall, it does seem that that at least the clinicians are interested in technologies, as long as they are technologies they view as helping them to do their work better. They definitely want IT support. They want user-friendly technologies. But because I think clinicians are a key gatekeeper to technologies, we really felt like it was important to begin by knowing something about the challenges and barriers to integrating technology in home care. Okay, another project that we're doing is called Modeling Changes in Mobility, Cognition, and Daily Activities to Predict Care Needs. Again, this project reflects our interest in looking at trajectories of frailty and changes in healthcare over time. And so in this project, we're actually going to integrate data from these multiple sensors to develop and then provide a more predictive metric for adverse events or changes in health status. Now this has been done in other settings like residential care. In particular, I think of Tiger Place. There are these different projects that have gone on. But to date, I don't think that anyone's moved this into the actual home care. It's going to be much more controlled kinds of settings. And we really want to see if we can integrate technologies in the home in a way that, you know, in a natural setting where people want to be, not in assisted living. So we're going to be looking at community-dwelling older adults who are living with cognitive impairment. We're going to be gathering continuous and intermittent data across domains of health, things like daily activities, mobility, sleep. Our first stage, which is, we're in the midst of ethics approval right now, but our first stage will be pilot testing some of these technologies and developing our metrics and algorithms in a lab setting. And then by early spring, we hope to move it into proof of concept and actually implement some technologies in the homes of 4 home care clients. And we'll go from there. So this is what this would look like basically in the home, kind of our vision. We would have bed sensors, activity sensors. There would be some sort of computer system in the home. Gait sensors that would be on the floor that would tell us whether there's changes in a person's gait, which we know are pretty good predictive measures for some changes in health. Inertial motion sensors, which can be put on a person's shoes so that when they're walking, we can tell things about, again, their gait. And then environmental sensors, because when someone's less active, sometimes that's a good indicator also of some changes in health. Now what we want to do, it's not enough, like gathering all this data, it's a lot of data, and you have a lot of noise in that data. One of the things that's going to be important here is being able to filter out some of that noise and then to link this data to changes in clinical status. So changes like if you were to go in and do a raw home care assessment, what are the things that are really important there? What are the things that could guide care planning? When is more care needed? At what point are we seeing a change that's clinically significant? So that's the challenge that we're setting out for ourselves that we hope to solve. And I think it's a really practical kind of, hopefully important contribution. One of the ways, I mentioned that we not only want to monitor and predict, but we want to intervene. So we're calling these effectors. We have a partner that has a product called, the partner's called Simple C, and their product is called Simple C Companion. And so what this is it's a tablet, and it can be customized to the individual, and it can alert them to certain things during the day. And so it offers very personalized care, and this is just an example for reminders that it can offer for someone who has cognitive disabilities. Another partner has been CanAssist. One of our partners was involved in the laundry deterrent device, and so this is a device where when someone starts to wander at night, they hear a familiar voice, maybe their daughter or son, saying, no, it's nighttime, the stores are closed, go back to bed. So just a simple idea that there are ways, I think, that technologies can be integrated, and this shows just two examples of the ways in which we might be able to intervene and prevent something adverse from happening. Now, I mentioned big data and analytics. How many of you have heard of Watson, the Watson computer? Do you remember Jeopardy and the computer that actually beat, I think his name was Jeff. But Watson is I'm looking for my notes on Watson. Anyway, Watson is a naturalistic computer. You can talk to it and say, Watson, I need this, or Watson, do that. It learns. It learns from things that have happened before, and so it's a very intelligent kind of computer. One of our colleagues works with IBM and has access to Watson metrics, and so she's going to be assisting us with analyzing and bringing together our data and developing some algorithms that will tell us more about what's going on, in our data patterns. So, okay. So in conclusion, I like this comment a lot. In a world where dementia is on the rise and caregivers are unavailable or unable to meet the needs of individuals with dementia, technology can and should play an important role. So we really do believe that carefully designed technologies can deliver very person-centered, non-drug interventions that can mitigate and manage disease symptoms and support and improve wellness and the independence of all older adults, not just those with dementia, but all older adults and their caregivers. And I think caregivers in particular, some of these technologies can really support caregiving in important ways. So, okay, let's go to some questions.